with swords in their hand, protecting these two young men. Was walking around these two young men, and I came back into myself, and those spirits were still standing there. When I stood, and I said, I see why you didn't. I said, those guys got more than we do.
Did that? What did you think when you had that experience? Here you were able to do so much because of the power that was within you at that point in time, and that you saw there was a greater power. Did that have any effect on you at that time of thinking, hey, maybe I need to go after the greater power?
No, I was trying to figure out how I can defeat those angels.
Right.
How come the lady didn't teach me how to deal with this group? Because these are some big dudes,
yeah.
Big guys. And I wasn't thinking about God at all. I was trying to figure out why mine didn't work, as opposed to embracing that stronger power. I just didn't want to do that at that time because
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because, I think some people at that point in time would have thought, hey, I must go. But it's very interesting. All you wanted to do was to say, well, my power must be able to deal with this. Let's find a way of doing it.
Yeah, just find a way to do it. But it didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work, and I couldn't understand what's the difference between what they had and what I had. And I was like, I got to climb up here and try to find out what's happening. But there's no way you could beat God. He's just too big.
We'll come on to that, because that's certainly what you found out after that.
Yeah.
We'll come on to. But I think the next stage, which I want to take you through, is the whole area of drugs, because I think you started taking drugs quite early on, but you also then got into dealing drugs. Was that a direct result of being involved in the occult realm, or was that something separate?
It was something separate. See, my brothers, they used to deal a lot of stuff. We had connections with New York and South America and stuff like that there, and some other parts of the world. And they would bring certain things in, and I would watch them cut and divide and different things like that. I won't say what it was over the TV because I'm not trying to help nobody to destroy themselves,
yeah.
but certain things that we did, and as a little child, I would watch those things, and they were not only dealers, Doug, but they were users too. And in the streets, they always tell you don't be a customer of your own product, but they were, and I used to watch them, shoot heroin and hit the vein and everything like that, and shoot the heroin. And I wanted to be like them because they were my bigger brothers, and they would tell me, no, you can't shoot heroin right now. You're only 4 years old.
How old were you?
4.
4, and already you were looking at the whole drug scene.
Oh yeah, by 4 years old, I've seen everything. I've seen murders. I've seen prostituting deals go down. I've seen people hurt bad and destroyed, and all kinds of dead bodies. It was nothing for me at that time. Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. I've seen all that. Way before. I thought I was a little man at that time. Everybody else was playing with cars and stuff like that. I was doing different things at 4 years old. So when they told me no, I go back again. They told me no again. I go back. One day I heard this voice. It says, "You don't have to worry about their drugs. I'll show you how to get high." There was nobody back there. But I said, who is it? He said, let me show you. So he showed me how to get high on things at home, at things at home. And at 4 years old, I started. I started doing things with certain chemicals. I won't tell you what they are, of course, but those things. And I was just as high as them at 4 years old. Then 5, and then 6, I started. They let me smoke marijuana at 6 years old. And they showed me how to roll the paper and everything like that. And 10 years old, they induced me to cocaine. And at 10 years old, I was allowed to snort the cocaine. It wasn't crack, it was the powder.
Yeah.
And then from there, they gave me a portion to deal, and then was making money. I was making more money in one day than most grown men were working a job. I was making more than they were, and just dealing cocaine at 10.
And did you start using as well?
Yeah. I started. I wanted to see what that felt like, to be high on cocaine, because prior to that I wasn't onto it, but it just you know, how they roll it and everything and put it on the table and slice it with the razor blade and stuff like that. So I said, well, let me try it. And then I got hooked on my own stuff, my own product. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is early teens now. By this time. Up until that point, I mean, apart from this time when two of your friends, as you said, had gone to revival meeting and become Christians, had you had any spiritual Christian input into your life, or was that just something that was way out there and you didn't know anything, or were you even beginning to struggle with any of those things at this point in time?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. My mother was a spirit-filled Christian.
Really?
And I remember my mother would sit in a chair like this, and she would pray, and she was rock, and she would pray. And I thought in order to be a Christian, you had to rock all day. I think, you know, yeah, man, I didn't want her to sit there and rock. You know? I think you had to sit there and rock, and you know, do like this, rock. So I watched her, and I would laugh, and I said, you know, as she go rocking. But, you know, when she rocked, some great things happen. You know, put protection around the house. And different things like that. I mean, it's not the rocking, but I mean, her praying.
Because she's touching
something,
the Lord,
and she would anoint my head with oil. She would anoint my head with oil, and she would speak, and she said, someday you're going to be a preacher. Someday you're going to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. And my father, you know, since he was into voodoo and different things like that there, if he found her doing that, he would smack her to the ground in front of us. Wow. I had 9 brothers and sisters, and he would beat my mother down to the ground, you know, because my father had me doing other things for him. Yeah. And he didn't want that competition. You know, my mother, so what she was wise, you know, and when he wasn't home, she would anoint all of our heads with oil. I always say, my mother put so much oil on our heads, Doug, we can slide from one end of the house to the next. We were some real slicksters, you know, because she would slide with that holy oil.
But did that give you a conflict inside, though, or even in your head, that here's your mother doing this, your father doing that, completely opposite? Did it give you a conflict, or was it almost sitting back saying, well, let's see who wins? I mean, I don't think I could even imagine what that must have done to you at that time.
It gave me like a conscience.
Right.
You know, when we used to do heist, you know, I guess they say heist over here.
Use that word. Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to talk like, you know, you do.
Don't worry, be yourself. We'll put subtitles up explaining it.
So we would do stuff like that, and my problem was, and it still is, I don't like to see people struggling, hungry, and no shoes and clothes, stuff like that. And so when we did that, I would never keep the money for myself. I would go around community and take care of the poor with it. Right. At the point they called me Robin Hood. I don't like that title too much, you know, but they would call me that. It wasn't I was trying to do something for people to see it. I didn't like poor people around me, you know, and I guess that come because of my mother's influence, because she would always take in people. She would, I mean, it was 9 brothers and sisters or 10 brothers and sisters, and then there's always neighborhood children that run away. She'd take them in, and so her prayers, it put a conscience in me, because at that point I didn't really have, because when you see people killed and murdered from the time you're a little kid, you get hardened. Yeah, absolutely. You know, especially when you don't do something. My dad, he wouldn't whip me with a belt like this, with the leather part. He'd wrap his up and he hit me in the head with the buckle. You know, I get beaten in the head with the buckle. And so that was making me a hard child, you know, and he would make me stand against the wall, and he said, I told you, he'd crack me in the head with the belt buckle, and I would stand there, and I said, you know, God help anybody else that get in my way. I can't do nothing to you, but everybody else is in trouble. Yeah. And so, but my mother's prayers, it was always say, you know what, I'm fixing to cut your throat, but it seemed like there would be a hand there, a hand of conscience from God said, don't cut that person, you know, and like somebody talking, say, don't do that. And I said, oh man, my mother's praying again. Oh man, fixing to cut you. My mother prayed and I can't cut you. You see?
But I mean, the encouragement, I think, to many of our viewers is this, that here you are in a hopeless situation.
Yes, sir.
And yet your mother's prayer seemed to just hold you enough at that point.
Yeah.
And And what encouragement it is to continue to pray
Yes.
for our children.
Yes, yes.
And